The title is something like, okay, wait, we weren't even recording before now? Good man. All right, you kept off all the boring stuff. Okay, so I've titled it something like Deities, Devils, Destroyers, Death, and Other Bizarre Supernatural Creatures in the Bible. That's kind of the thing there. Or biblical monsters, or bizarre biblical creatures, or unearthly functionaries of Yahweh, or supernatural creatures in the sacred text. I mean, right? This is what we're doing. We're looking at all those weird things. And you might not even be aware that there are a lot of weird things out there in the Bible. I mean, certainly you've heard of Yahweh before. Probably if you're nerdy enough to come to a group like this, you've heard of Yahweh or God, right? You've heard of angels, you've heard of demons, right? But you may not have known that there was a plague demon or a river demon or a god of breasts. Sounds like a good godhood to have, I guess. Or like, there's just all these, there's giants, there's shades, there's underworld deities. There are animals that are like hybrid creatures. There's weirdness all over the pages. And the Hebrew Bible generally, if you know Hebrew, you can find it. If you're reading the NIV, they quite simply hide it from you. Okay? They don't want you to see all those things. And if you've been hanging out here for a long time, you've known translation is important, right? So they're going to I'm constantly going in there and saying, yeah, the NIV just went ahead and changed this because it didn't want you to get concerned. Like they have a very evangelical, that's their kind of baseline. And they want to make sure that their evangelicals are happy. Okay. So there are other translations that don't do that as much, but all translations fail. They all fail in some way because they're trying to do this, and to do this, they take away from this because that's just the way it happens. And they're all interpretations. Anyway, so let's play in the monsters myth area. Okay, so I don't know what kind of pop culture you have, but I'm reading one of the books that I'm reading in a series. Does a lot of little pop culture helps to help me out. Riston read this book as well by Yamori. And you guys know do you know the TV show Supernatural? Anybody a CW kind of person? All right, Kyle, Todd, Riston, seen. Okay, I don't know that I've actually seen Supernatural, but I've seen tons of commercials about it. And I think it's like these two guys who are like going through and just trying to kill the like bad monsters. Is that a fair for the three of you who've actually watched Supernatural? I think that's kind of like what it is. They hunt demons, they hunt ghosts, they hunt monsters, whatever supernatural beings are out there. They're supernatural hunters. I don't know what they are. So think through pop culture for a second, and I want you to think about what are the supernatural, that means out of this world, right? What are the supernatural creatures? Or I don't know, they might not even be created. They might be omnipotent or something like that. But the good ones. And I just want to hear some ideas that you have. What are the good things out there in pop culture, or maybe it's in reality if you think it's reality. I don't know. Right? But what are some of those beings? And we'll define good and bad later, but I just want to hear, because good and bad, this is going to be a major piece of this. Like the people that you think are bad sometimes work for God, right? And it gets a little bit weird, a little scary, honestly, for evangelicals at least. All right, so tell me some good guys. Like Superman would be an example, right? Superman is someone that comes from outside of our world into this world in some sense, right? That's what I'm trying to talk about. Or like the X-Men's mutants, or some of the mutants are good mutants.
Commander of the army of the Lord.
Okay, good. We went straight to the Bible. Good job, Tom. All right, Commander of the army of the Lord, Joshua. Yes. Are you for us or against us? All right.
Angels.
Unicorns.
I heard angels. Yep.
Angels.
Okay.
I would say
Michael-
unicorns are good supernatural creatures.
Unicorns.
They're in the Bible,
Okay.
actually, but yes, yeah.
That's right. They are unihorned creatures in the Bible, right? They have one horn. Yep. Okay. And they seem like they're always good guys, I think. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe there's bad unicorns. I don't know. What else I heard a whole bunch of people talk and I didn't hear it all.
Where are the unicorns in the Bible?
We'll get to that. We'll get to all that. There's a word in the Bible that we could be translated single horn.
It's only in the King James version.
Oh,
And it is in the King James that it says unicorn, I think,
It
actually.
is. I think it's in Psalms, but I'm not correct. Captain America, I was thinking. Captain
Mhm.
America.
Okay, so he gets like kind of supernatural-ish powers, but he's a regular person, right?
Yeah.
So he
Okay.
takes the chemical that makes him different. But yeah, kind of. All right.
He's just a boy from Brooklyn. Come on, that ain't no supernatural.
I don't know that reference. Sorry. Just a boy from Brooklyn. Sorry.
Spider-Man. I don't know. He's something similar. Yeah.
Who? Fireman?
Spider-Man. Yeah.
Spider-Man. These are all regular people. These are regular people. I mean, they have
Superman is too, though,
powers.
isn't it? Superman's the same.
No, he's an alien.
Alien.
Oh, okay.
How about
Yeah, he's
Thor
from another
and
planet.
Odin and all the Greek gods and all the how about Zoroastrian gods? There's probably some Zoroastrian gods.
Oh, thanks, Travis. Yeah.
Harry Potter. Harry Potter's a good guy.
Harry Potter.
All the
Harry Potter,
Gryffindors.
good. Yep. Zoroastrian. If Josh says Zoroastrian, do we get a bingo point? Is that like that's one of the bingo cards?
One of the bingo
Oh.
cards.
That
Yeah.
Travis
I'm
said.
not going to say it just because he's wanting
Are
me
we
to.
team Edward or team Jacob? Like, are the vampires good or the
Okay.
werewolves?
There you go. Vampires or werewolves. Good. All right. They're supernatural-ish. I don't know if they're good guys or bad guys because I've still not seen it. I did buy that DVD once for 50 cents because I was determined to watch Vampire Love Story because it was so popular and I never have yet. I'm going to one day.
Say Frankenstein, Dracula, the Invisible Man.
Okay. Those are bad guys usually, though. Well, kind of.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Dracula is a bad guy.
Yeah.
Invisible Man's probably a bad guy. Frankenstein, it depends on what part of the
I'm
book you're
going from
reading.
the books. Yeah.
Yeah, from the book, he's kind of a misunderstood.
What
Becomes a
about
bad guy though.
Belinda?
Does kill people.
What about Galinda and Alphaba from Wicked?
Mm.
There you go. Nice. Good. All right. Belinda. Yep. I haven't seen that yet either.
What about Gandalf?
Gandalf. Okay, yeah, that's a whole other world.
Mm-hmm.
He's definitely a good guy.
Mm-hmm.
Marduk.
Gandalf the Gray.
Marduk.
Marduk. Whoa, that's a stretch one on that one. Good. So Marduk is a Babylonian god who is a good guy for them, but probably not for the biblical people. So yeah, you could be good guys depending on your culture, right? Bad guy or good guy. Marduk is definitely a champion because he beats up on Tiamat, which you might remember from Marvel movies. What Marvel movie was that? The Eternals, right? The Eternals. Tiamat's in that one.
What about Aslan?
Oh, yeah.
Ooh, cool. That's a good idea.
That's a really good one. Can we do the bad guys now? Or are we still
All right,
doing-
yeah, let's do bad guys. Yeah. People are like, I don't know any good guys. Give me some bad guys. All right, give me some bad guys.
The Leviathan.
Leviathan, another good biblical one that shows up in other cultures as well. It's a seven-headed dragon, for those of you who don't know. We'll talk about him.
Stone
Godzilla.
creatures.
What was that, Tom?
Stone creatures.
Stone creatures? Okay, yep.
The Kraken.
Mm.
Kraken. Yes, the Kraken.
Satan.
The Nothing. And
The Nothing. Ooh, in the never-ending story. Yeah,
I
good
like
job.
that movie.
What about Satan in the Bible?
yeah, I was gonna say that.
Satan, good. Chris Smith, by the way, gets the points. He's under Tiffany down there for getting the never-ending story picture that I put on there.
Ah,
Nobody else
very
got that
good.
one right. So he gets extra points today. Jesus is happy with him and very sad about the rest of you. All right, what else? We got some other bad guys?
A Sith Lord.
Ooh, good. Star Wars world. Yes. Sith Lord. It's a bad guy.
Krampus.
Krampus. Nice. Yep.
What about Beelzebub?
Beelzebub?
Yep.
That'll work. Yep. Lord of the Flies. Beelzebul is flies, but yes.
Say wolf? Yeah. Like a werewolf? No, wolf.
A werewolf. Yes.
Oh, a wolf. A wolf.
Just a wolf? Yes.
No,
A wolf is-
bad guys. Oh, the wolf from Bad Guys. From the
Oh, yeah.
movie Bad Guys.
I don't know the book,
I
the
don't either.
movie Bad Guys. All right, cool. There's a
The
wolf in there.
animated movie, sorry.
That's awesome. Okay.
Bigfoot and light creatures are usually bad, not always.
Yep. Bigfoots are almost always bad and come from, worlds apart. Yes.
Let's go.
Cthulhu. You remember that? You guys know Cthulhu? He looks like the guy. He's got like a squid face. Like he looks like the guy from Davy Jones' Locker. There's Cthulhu, one of those guys. You don't need to know who all these are. Some of you do. There's like a monster that lives in Lake Champlain. They call him Champ. Or Loch Ness might be another one that lives in, Nessie lives there. Maybe a giant singing plant that eats people named Audrey, I think.
Michael's kissing a sphinx over there.
Wait, Michael's kissing a sphinx? Oh, yeah. Oh, that's a pretty cool picture. Yeah. Yeah, so a sphinx. What the heck is that? Right, so we're going to talk about those sphinx. They're going to show up in the Bible. Kind of. Not as sphinxes, but as something else.
I know a bad guy.
Tell me a bad guy.
Donald Trump.
Which one?
He says Donald Dump. He doesn't like the current president.
All right, so Donald Duck could be a bad guy for him. That's proven a good point, though, right? Is it good guys or bad guys? Depends on your perspective. Depends on where it's coming from. All right. What else did I write here? Clown dolls with cleavers.
Oh.
If you remember Chucky. Let's see. Bigfoot, you said. Yakumama is a river monster in the Amazon. Basilisks, death scare. Birds that all come together and attack people in black and white movies. Right? Like they're kind of supernatural. They're natural, but they've become supernaturalized, right? They're attacking in some way. Okay, we got the point. So the Bible is similar. We have good and bad supernatural creatures, and sometimes you cannot tell the difference between what's good and what's bad. The problem is that most of us generally only know a few. We know Satan, we know God, we know demons, we know angels, and maybe a few others that you guys named. You get pretty good, actually. And then the ones that we do know of, we've domesticated somehow. We've made into these things that are nothing like what they are. Like cherubim become pudgy angel things with bow and arrows that look like children that sing, right? Cherubs. You're like, wait, where does that come from? That's like, we just domesticated so much. Or the devil has a pitchfork and a red pointy tail, and he lives in hell, and has demon minions under them, even though there's nothing about any of that stuff in the Bible. Even God ends up becoming some sort of, for most cultures, for many people, becomes some kind of giant Santa Claus that has a throne, right? He just kind of gives nice things to people who are doing nice, and I don't know, sometimes gets angry at the other people, depending on your perspective. So those are the ones we know. But as I said, translators are hiding stuff from you. Okay, they're messing with you. So most of us, we see the giants, we see the demons that come out of the abyss, we see the angels who give messages. In fact, that's the only thing we think about angels, messengers. And then we miss the sea creatures with long tails that destroy worlds. We miss the fire-breathing gods. We miss the four-eyed gods with enormous ears that are showing up there. We miss the crouching pestilence demons. We miss the ones with multiple faces. Like, we don't think about any of those things. And if we do, we all put them in the category of angels or demons. Like, we just categorize them. And what I'm going to show you is that a lot of the creatures that exist here begin one way and end up later in the Bible in a completely different way, which is what happens in reality too, right? Things evolve. We have cultural memory of something, we tell the story about something, and then we alter it to fit into our context a little bit more, or because we like this creature better, and so it begins to change. So people in the New Testament will change things in the Old Testament, or things in the later Old Testament will change earlier Old Testament. That's just the way the Bible works. So now let's try and talk about good versus bad, just for a minute. This is all introductory before we get into our first creature, which who knows whether we'll get to or not. But so good and bad. Good ones are easy to describe because good supernatural creatures generally look pretty similar to us. Like that's just a way for us to get across, okay, they're okay, right? And they work for, usually if they're in the Bible, they work for God, it seems like, and he sends them to defend us against the bad guys, right? We come up with this whole idea of guardian angels, again, not in the Bible, but we kind of take some ideas, some concepts there, and then we say, we have a guardian angel, God's trying to protect us. I can't believe I wasn't in an accident. God, angel must have pushed the car, right? We do all that stuff, which is our way of reimagining scripture to make it fit for us so it continues to live, right? And it's fine. It's just what we do naturally. I mean, maybe it's not fine, but it's what happens. And we know that, though, whatever they are, they're helping us live a better life in some way. And in pop culture, good ones, you name some of those that look similar, but the ones that look weird might be like, I don't know, Casper the Friendly Ghost. He looks different, but he looks nice, right? He's always smiling, doing nice things. I guess if you're under 40, you have no idea who Casper the Friendly Ghost is, probably. But most of you guys do, I think, right? Like it's just he's a nice guy. Or the witches from Charmed, like Alyssa Milano and Shannon Doherty, I think from 90210 is in that. You guys know what I'm talking about? Like the witches that, I don't know, their greatest power was their low-cut shirts or something like all we're doing is watching that is about these beautiful girls. That was all it was about. But they're like, they look like us. And so they're good guys. The bad guys have horns. Buffy, the vampire slayer, is like a hot young teenage, right? Like we know those are good guys and the bad guys look different. Glinda, somebody brought up about the good witch, right?
My wife wanted to throw in Edward, the vampire, for all the ladies in the group, since you're just talking
there you
about
go.
women.
Yeah, you can tell I'm definitely a guy. Yeah, all right, there we go. I mean, Casper was a boy, but yes. All right, Edward, is he the vampire or the werewolf?
He is the vampire.
All right, and he's the new Batman. Is that guy Pattinson? Is that Edward, or is that
Yes.
Jake?
Yes.
I don't know. You guys know.
Pattinson.
Okay. Yeah. So Mickey from the Sorcerer Apprentice. We all love Mickey. He's a good guy, right? He makes the brooms dance. You get the idea here. Bad guys they're usually weird looking creatures, giants, dragons, Hellboy. Hellboy's one of those weird ones, right? Right? Hellboy, the big monster thing with the cut off horns, right? His horns are cut off because I'm not going to be a bad guy, but he's kind of a bad guy, but not really. Like does good thing. Like he's this anti-hero, and you're not really sure whether he's a good guy or a bad guy. Punisher, is he a good guy or a bad guy in the comic books? Again, he's not supernatural, but you get the idea. They always have some kind of supernatural strength and almost always a hybridity of some kind. They're hybrid creatures. They have different powers that combine together. So centaurs or chimera or satyrs or something like that, like the body of a horse, but the head of whatever, a person. There's hybrid creatures. They mix dead and living. So Frankenstein is a good one of that, kind of an alive dead person. Or I don't know, vampire is kind of a dead live person as well.
Zombies.
What? Zombies. Zombies is, perfect example, right? They're not really bad guys, but they're bad guys to the people in the story. They're not alive. They're not dead. The car in Christine. Anybody remember that car that that was our thrillers in the long, right? Like, is it a person? It seems to have personality, but it's a vehicle. Like, what's happening here? So these are the bad guys that are there, and they almost always live on the outskirts. Okay, we're going to notice this as we come into this. They live somewhere outside of the norm, and they become monsters usually when they enter into normal air territory. That's just the way it normally works. So, like, they could live in a haunted house, but they're perfectly fine there until normal comes in to their particular place. Or a cemetery is on the outskirts, or the woods, or the wilderness, or the sewers, or hell, or the place of the dead, or the sea, someplace that regular people don't just like hang out at, right? These are the bad guys. And Augustine said about the bad guys, he said, all bad guys, especially in scripture, they're contrary to nature. That was his words, right? They're just not natural. Oh, yeah, that's why we call them supernatural. But they're really unnatural, not just supernatural. There's something really wrong with them. And the bad creatures in the Bible generally are going to seem to be opponents of God, but they're not. That's what's going to, I mean, I think that's going to take up a lot of our conversations here, because we're going to see these things and we're going to see that God is the one that is using these bad things, and they're not really doing bad things. They're doing what God wants them to do. And the problem is, from our perspective, those things that God wants them to do seem bad. And so what we do is we end up trying to figure out a way to deal with that. And so we put them at odds with each other, even though the text says that one is doing exactly what the other one says. We don't like that. So we just go ahead and separate it. And then our mythology continues in that way, right? Satan is a bad guy. He is equal to God or something like that, right? Maybe God is better, but still they're the opponents, right? Even though in the Old Testament, when we see Satans, plural, right? They're under the employ of God, right? They're doing what he told them to do. They're not doing anything wrong, but they look like they're wrong. Again, we'll get to that and talk about that at a particular time. And so these bad guys are violent, really violent. Again, bad guys. They're sneaky. They lie. God sends them to lie sometimes. Vengeful creatures, and almost everything that they're doing, not everything, because there's different gods, of course, different creatures, but a lot of them are just in God's employ. So we're going to meet like flaming flying serpents. Probably didn't know that was in the Bible. Flaming flying serpents, creepy, weird. Bodyguards that are like bouncers of Yahweh, so you can't get near Yahweh. They'll take you out. Whatever you come near, they're going to beat you up. There'll be adversaries or Satans who manipulate. There's going to be angels who come at God's behest and execute thousands. And again, so we're just like, are they good guys or bad guys? That's going to be the question we're going to have. And then there's going to be other creatures that are going to live in the sea, under the sea, maybe definitely under the earth, in the wilderness, that come in out of the wilderness, creep in and do things and then run back out. Some weird, creepy stuff. Now, there are literally hundreds of these things in the Bible. Okay, so this, we could do one a week and still be here for a couple of years. Okay, I'm not doing that. I'm just going to pick some that are cool, and maybe we'll do some, do 3 or 4 in a day. But most of these will take us several days to look at, because some of you want to do like, hey, we don't really do Bible studies. We talk about the Bible, but we don't look at text that much, which is true. Trying to give you big picture stuff. So we're going to like look at these texts this time. Okay. In some cases, we're going to look at every text where these creatures show up, everyone, and you're going to leave with your own conclusions as to what's happening. But I'll tell you some stuff that's going in there, that's going on there that you might not see. Okay. So it's 8:42. Anything we need to say before we jump into this first one? You want to talk about bad, good creatures? Did you forget one? You wanted to add one more in?
Yeah.
It just needed to be said.
Yeah, like Enkidu, Dionysus, Pan. Those are the 3 that I came up with, especially
Nice.
Enkidu.
Those are good.
And then, what was it? Gilgamesh.
Good.
But I'm also thinking of like tricksters, where Jacob, God uses Jacob to trick Esau, and like it's like he's supposed to be a good guy, but it's like there's the gray area in the Bible where that doesn't sound right. Or Abraham lies in to the Pharaoh. There's just a lot of things going on in the Bible where it's like that doesn't look right, but people just breeze past that stuff and just go, But God said it was, okay. So and he's using Abraham, and he's the chosen one, and Jacob. So we're just gonna forget that stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. Now those aren't supernatural creatures, but yeah, what you're doing is comparing the natural ones to the supernatural, and we have the same problem.
Right.
Right. We don't know who the good guys and the bad guys are all the time. Yep. They're going to change depending on where you're coming from with them.
Jace, can I add one more?
Yeah. Michael, I think. Wherever you are. Yes.
Melchizedek.
Who? Melchizedek?
Melchizedek.
All right. Melchizedek. Okay. I'm trying to think. So he's definitely a person in the Bible. I'm trying to think if is he in another culture like a supernatural creature?
I don't know, but he is. Sometimes he was compared to Jesus. I don't know.
Oh, I see. Yeah. Because he doesn't have an origin story, right? He comes in there in Genesis, in early Genesis with Abraham, and Hebrews is going to and Psalm are both going to use that character and say something mysterious about Melchizedek, right? Which is just a literary thing, in my opinion. We can talk about Melchizedek someday, but I think he's just a regular guy, a king of Jerusalem, priest of Jerusalem, maybe. But yep. All right. Anybody else got one? All right. Okay, so let's talk about this first one. Here we are. We're all at church, and we're told to open our hymnals to song number 1. Every one of your hymnals, I guarantee you, number 1 is the same song. I don't know if I'm right or not, but every one that I've ever seen, number 1 is always the same one. Do you know what that one is?
Holy, holy.
Nailed it. Good job, Trisha. That was good. Yep. Holy, holy, right? Everyone, I mean, if you've been in church for 5 minutes, you've heard holy, holy, holy. And holy, 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 Lord God Almighty. Keep going. Anybody know the rest of it?
Early in the morning.
Morning hours shall rise to thee. Right? Holy, holy, holy. What is it? God in 3 persons, blessed Trinity, or something like that, right? Okay, so that's our song. We've worshiped. We remember all this. And that comes from 2 passages. That song comes from 2 passages. Isaiah 6 and Revelation 4. Actually, when I say it comes from 2 passages, the only thing that comes from those 2 passages is the holy, holy, holy part. The rest of it is just made up later, right? That's just other stuff. Like the whole idea of blessed Trinity doesn't come around till the 2nd century. There's no Trinity anywhere in the Bible. But there are definitely occurrences that make us look towards a Trinity that they formulate in the 2nd century, and they put some meat around the concept. We definitely see it. I don't mean it's unbiblical, but there's never Trinity mentioned or talked about in any kind of theological way. And nothing in the song is, except for the holy, holy, holy. So who is singing these songs? That is my trivia question for you right now.
Angels.
We all know the answer.
The angels in heaven.
The angels, right? That's always our answer. The angels, I mean, you might answer, I'm singing it. I was literally just singing it, right? With you, right? I was in church and I was singing it. But the angels are the ones who are singing it, except for they're not, right? Again, so this is just our mythology that we add to the Bible, things we think we know, but it's not there, okay? So, in fact, it's probably a good thing for you to know. I don't know if this is actually good to know or not, but people like weird little things. The angels never sing in the Bible. There's no singing going on. There's one passage you might be able to interpret as singing, but it doesn't say they sang. Okay, there's no angels singing in the Bible. But whatever these things are that are saying holy, 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 they sing. It seems like, or maybe, or not. Maybe not actually. Like it's a little bit unclear as to what these things are and what it is that they're actually doing. So let's play in the actual Bible, Isaiah chapter 6.
There's seraphim.
So yes, that's our creature that we're talking about here.
And they're flying snakes in numbers, right? 30, I think. Number 33.
Yeah, we're going to go through all that stuff, but way to jump ahead and show you that you got this handled. Yep. So extra points for Chris for the seraph, the never-ending story, and for Josh for giving me a whole bunch of Bible references to these creatures. All right. So Isaiah chapter 6. You remember what's going on at this point? We've got some major problems in Israel. There's an exile, and we need some sort of a prophet who's going to come and who's going to tell Ahaz to stop doing all the stuff. Don't call Assyria for help. I mean, it's a whole political thing. You don't need to know all the history here. But Isaiah chapter 6 is where we hear the call of the prophet. Almost every prophetic book has a call of a prophet in it. I don't know if that's true of almost every. That's the same thing. Quite a lot of them have a call of a prophet. There's just a section in there that'll say, he was a shepherd and God called him and he became this, okay? The Isaiah 6 passage, that's what it's about. It's about the call of a prophet. When we think about Isaiah 6, we think it's about the holiness of God because of the holy, 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 but it's really a call of the prophet. So what's going on when this prophet is called? Because this prophet's going to be called, Isaiah chapter 7 is coming next, right? That's going to be the virgin birth story, or the young widow, the young woman story, in reality, not a virgin. And then by chapter 9 or chapter 8, we've got Maharshal Hashbaz, the longest name in the Bible, what you should all consider naming your next child. And then chapter 9 is the wonderful Counselor, Mighty God, Everlasting Father, Prince of Peace, right? That's the trajectory of we're going. That's where this shows up. We're going to get introduced to this prophet in Isaiah chapter 6. So somebody want to read in whatever awesome or terrible version they have. You don't need to figure out whether it's terrible or awesome, but tell me what it is. And then I want you to read for me the first 6 verses. And I want the rest of you to be thinking, okay, what am I learning about this passage? What am I learning about this group of people who are singing it? Are they singing? What do we know about them? So who's going to read for me? All right, Lori, you're on it, and tell me what version you're using.
The New Living
Okay, New
Translation.
Living. All right. So it's a pretty decent translation. I enjoy it. It's very readable. It's nothing like the Living Bible. So if you hear Living Bible when you hear that, Living Bible is not a translation at all. It's a paraphrase. The New Living Translation is something totally different and pretty decent. Does okay. It's going to have problems like everything else is, but it's pretty good. All right.
Okay. It was in the year King Uzziah died that I saw the Lord. He was sitting on a lofty throne, and the train of his robe filled the temple. Attending him were mighty seraphim, each having 6 wings. With 2 wings they covered their faces, with 2 they covered their feet, and with 2 they flew. They were calling out to each other, "Holy, holy, holy is the Lord of heaven's armies. The whole earth is filled with his glory." Their voices shook the temple to its foundations, and the entire building was filled with smoke. Then I said, "It's all over. I am doomed, for I am a sinful man. I have filthy lips, and I live among a people with filthy lips. Yet I have seen the King, the Lord of heaven's armies." Then one of the seraphim flew to me with a burning coal he had taken from the altar with a pair of tongs. That's as far as you want me to read?
Nope, all the way through 7. Sorry, I said 6, but go through 7.
He touched my lips with it and said, "See, this coal has touched your lips. Now your guilt is removed and your sins are forgiven."
Man, there's so much. We could do like just a huge Bible study just on this alone. With your guilt is taken away and your sin atoned for. Like somehow whatever this creature is has atoned for his sins by purging his lips with fire. Can they do that? Like there's all kinds of theological questions. Isn't God supposed to do that? Are the seraphim God? Okay, what are we learning here? What do we know about these things, the supernatural creatures?
They do the work of the Lord.
Okay, good. I'm going to start with they're called seraphim, just because I want a title. All right, they seem to work for God. All right, did we see that in there? Did they tell us that?
They said, no.
No, doesn't say they work for him, but they are praising him. So, I mean, they seem to be at least in favor of him.
They are forgiving sins.
Yeah.
They fly.
Okay, we know that they fly. All right, where do we see that?
6.
Verse 6. They flew to me with a live coal in their hand. Good. Okay.
They talk.
They talk. Good. Yeah. Let's stay simple because not all bad guy creatures talk. So that's good. Yep. Or good ones.
They
6
cover.
wings.
They have 6 wings. Is that what I heard? Yep.
They cover the Lord.
What was that?
They cover the Lord.
They cover the Lord.
Yeah, they cover with their wings.
Okay. Do they cover the Lord with their wings?
They're
See.
covering
Cover
themselves.
their
Their
faces
feet and their
and their
face.
feet.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then they have 2 for flying. But they
Okay. So they
attend the Lord.
okay. They cover themselves. They attend the Lord. Okay.
They seem to have some kind of power.
Yeah, some healing power. It reminds me of, and I was wrong, Numbers 21, where the flying snakes are coming and biting, and Moses has a snake on a stake, and somehow the snake has healing power. So
All right.
seraphim, I think, means snake, so they're able to heal. There's some kind of healing power.
Okay. Atoning power. All right. Josh, you're going way too fast on this, but you're adding a lot of other verses that aren't part of what we're dealing with, but good job.
When they speak, it says the doorposts and threshold shook and the temple was filled with smoke. So they've got some kind of power.
Yeah. Powerful voice, at least, right? Something about their
Yes.
voice, like Black Bolt, when they speak, things get crushed around them. Nobody's going to have my Marvel sensibilities. Riston is. Good job. Thank you. All right. Okay. That's not a lot of stuff we know, but I mean, we know something about them, right? It doesn't say they're angels, does it?
Mm-mm.
No.
No.
It doesn't say they're like class of angels or anything like that. So this is in our English Bible, this is the only passage to talk about this. The seraphim.
Seraphim?
Everything we know. Yep. The only ones where they're called seraphim and they're translated seraphim. Okay, I think this is it anyway. All right. So translators, again, in an attempt to hide from us what they don't like us to know, probably not malevolently, but they're trying to make it easier for us to be able to follow, often hide some of that stuff. But in this particular case, they actually use, right? They use the actual word, saraf. So, wait, that's not right at all.
That's what my translation says, calls them the NRSV.
But what is NRSV called them?
Seraphs.
Yeah, seraphs. Okay, so this piece right here, just for in case you need that, right? This is the same as saying seraphs. So this is a Hebrew word, seraphim. Okay, seraphim. So this little piece right here, that addition just means plural. It's the same that you hear in Elohim, right? Plural. It usually means gods or seraphs. So we can call them seraphs, like cherubim or cherubs. It's the same thing, right? We're taking a Hebrew word. Do you want to say it in Hebrew, or do you want to take the Hebrew into English and say it like that? So it's all up to you.
So, Jace, are they angels? Because my translation says angels, but from a previous Bible study, I wrote in seraphim above the word angels.
Your version just read angels? I was listening. I didn't hear you say that.
Yeah, it says 6-winged angels of fire. And then when they talk about the burning coal, then one of the mighty angels flew over to the altar. So that's what mine says. So are they a form of angel?
So all the things I said about New Living Translation, I'm gonna have to take back just in this one moment. So
Well,
usually
mine's the book.
Oh, the book is the Living Bible, not New Living.
Okay.
Okay, you didn't read that. Okay,
No,
that's
I
right.
didn't read it.
That's your version. Now I've got it. Okay, that was Lori that read.
Yeah.
The Living. Sorry, I combined you guys. Yes, so your book is a paraphrase. That's the
Mhm.
Living Bible, Kenneth Taylor paraphrase, where he just one man went through there, and he likes them to be angels, so he made them angels.
Mhm.
Which is one of the reasons I say throw the book away.
Garbage.
It's easy to understand.
Yeah, it's completely unhelpful. There's so many better ones. I mean, use the Message if you want to understand easier, or New Living is pretty easy to understand, or I don't know. Even J.B. Phillips is probably easier to understand.
I think those are
as a
both just
paraphrase.
New Testament, though, Dr. Broadhurst.
No, they're not.
So to answer your question though, Kathy, like the actual Hebrew word is seraphim. So,
Yes.
so it's not
That's-
angel. So yours changed it. So
Okay.
like that's what he's saying.
Okay.
Right. So that's the Hebrew word. So they just didn't even change it. They said it out loud as they were reading in the Hebrew, seraphim, and then they wrote what they said. So it's transliterated is really what it is. Not translated at all. They just left the Hebrew word in there to help you know that's what this is. Okay, so the Hebrew, of course, the Hebrew word's not going to show up in most of the Bible because it's a Hebrew word, and the job of your English Bible is to translate it into English, right?
Mm.
So of course it's not going to show up, but they didn't know what to do with this, so they just left it. Okay, I think that's smart. When you don't know what to do with it, you don't fix it for people. You don't tell them it's angels. Okay, I just think it's unfair. Okay. So any other little things that you want to say there?
The note in my Bible, NRSV, says supernatural beings, probably serpentine in form and associated with fire.
Very certain.
Yep. I told you these first ones are fiery
Josh,
serpent.
there you go.
Yeah.
Yep. Josh knew it. All right, but let's look at those things because that's a study note, right? That's not in her Bible. That's just a commentator who came in and is trying to help her or
Well,
all
a
of us
smart one.
understand it. Yes, a very smart one. Yep. And in fact, all I'm going to do is show you what that smart one has already said. But now you're going to look at it instead of just read the commentary. Right? So we're going to see that. That's what these things are. They're flying serpent, flying flaming serpents. Which is a really weird thing to be singing holy, holy, holy. Okay, since serpents don't generally have like
Good
vocal
reputation.
cords or right, they can't do
Yeet.
that kind of stuff. So but this is some supernatural weird thing that's happening. All right, so the coolest, yeah.
Hey, Jace, I'm sorry. How did we conclude they are serpents?
We didn't conclude that at all. All we did was
You just said it.
Yeah. That's correct. You're right, Michael. I did just say it. I said it because I was repeating what Lori read in her commentary. So a commentary said that, and we know that person's very smart, and now I'm going to try and show you it. We haven't concluded it. I've just kind of said it like, okay, they're flying serpent things. Now let me show you why I say that. I'm getting ready to show you.
Okay.
So I've concluded it because I've already studied all of this, but yeah, it's still up in the air. These could be just cool angel things. I don't know. They could be almost anything, right? Kathy says angels. That's just as powerful as whoever's writing Lori's commentary notes. So we've got to figure out what we think about these creatures. So the coolest passage where the word seraph, so this word right here, which is S-R-P, okay, or S-R, it can sometimes have a soft P sound as an F, seraph. Okay, that word shows up is in Numbers. And Josh has already beaten us to this one. So the book of Numbers, and let's start in Numbers 14. We're going to look at several places in here, but Numbers 21 is where we're going to spend a couple minutes. I just want to give you Numbers 14 just to remind you of what's happening. So here we are. You remember what Numbers is all. The book of Numbers is actually called in the wilderness is the translation of Bamidbar. So in the wilderness is what it's called. So this whole thing is taking place when these guys are doing their 40 years crud, right? Remember all that
Yeah.
stuff? You've been in church for a while. So the people of Israel are done. They are tired of all of this. They've been traveling through this godforsaken wilderness for way too long. They're tired of the manna. They're tired of being miserable. They've told God many times that they're miserable and he needs to fix this. And so God tells them multiple times, actually, but if you read Numbers 14 26 through 35, he says something like, your dead bodies shall fall in the wilderness. Okay, so this is God. Okay, because he's tired of their complaining. You're all going to die, basically. So here they are. They're traveling along. The Canaanite king of Arad, who lives in the Negev. Negev just means south. He lives in the south. Hears that they're coming and attacks them and takes them captive. And they vow to the Lord, if he delivers them, then they will sacrifice to God their opponents. Okay, we call this a harem. Okay, HRM. It's an H with that cool like Hanukkah sound, like a CH. Okay, so you might say it like this. Okay, harem is a ban. It's a total devotion of a city. It's what Joshua did to Jericho. Completely made it a burnt offering to their God Yahweh, and that's why they got in trouble later on because Achan didn't completely devote the whole land. Remember, so they had to completely devote Achan and his family. Remember, he took some of the goods and hid them in his tent, and so they haremed him in place of hareming the whole town. But eventually they harem the whole town. So they agreed to harem or devote or ban, devote this to them. And this happens. God delivers them. They do this. And instead of being on a high, like they should, 2 minutes later, they're miserable. They're impatient. It's like one verse from when they accomplish it to when they're impatient again. And then one more verse where they speak about God. And God decides he's going to do something. So then I'm jumping forward to Numbers 21. So you can look at this. This is verse 6. So somebody want to read what we got? 905? Yeah, we can at least read this. Let's do Numbers 21, 6 through 9. Somebody with a different translation just for fun.
The Lord sent fiery serpents among the people, and they bit the people, so that many people of Israel died. Verse 7. So the people came to Moses and said, we have sinned because we have spoken against the Lord and you. Intercede with the Lord that he may remove the serpents from us. And Moses interceded for the people. Verse 8. Then the Lord said to Moses, make a fiery serpent and set it on a standard or stick. And it shall come about that everyone who is bitten, when he looks at it, he will live. Verse 9. And Moses made a bronze serpent and set it on the standard stick. And it came about that if a serpent bit any man, when he looked at the bronze serpent, he lived. What verse do I need to go to?
9.
Sorry. Okay, that's it. Thanks. Sorry.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I thought you were on 8 too. Okay, yep, that's it. All right, so basically, if I were to summarize that, I'd say something like God saying, oh yeah, I'll show you death in the wilderness. Like he's attacking them, right? So God is going to go all fury on them. And so, of course, your question after reading that, if you're smart, is going to be something like, okay, thanks for letting us read that. It's a cool passage, but what in the world does it have to do with our topic? Right? Where are the singing angels? There's no singing angels in this passage. There's no coal being taken from the fire. How is this going to help our story? What's going on here? And here's my answer. Those singing angels are in verse 6. Okay, but they're not singing angels, but it's the same word that's showing up there. There's no wings, but again, we've got that word. Okay, it's saraf. So this is the word that we're talking about. So there are 2 words here. There in verse 6, which says venomous snakes. I think is what you read, Josh. Yeah,
fiery serpents.
Fiery serpents. Fiery serpents. Right. So here's our 2 words. So the word fiery is that word that we were just talking about, which is saraf. So it's let's see what it is. Hasafarim. So it's ha-sa-fa-rim. Okay, oops, that's a very bad M. Okay, hasafarim, ha, Safarim. So that's this word. This word is Nahashtim. I'm sorry, there's no T in that. Nahashim. Nahashim. Yes. Sorry, I'm doing this for myself to make sure that I'm doing it right. Nahashim. Okay, so that's the same word, Nahash, that you're going to see in Genesis 3. Right? You remember that? Adam and Eve meet this weird thing in the garden.
Mhm.
Nahash. Again, with that sound. So this is where you practice your good Hebrew when you say Nahash. You know you want to say it. The microphone's on, so you know it's off, so you can say it right now. Nahashim. I said it again. Nahashim. So, and again in verse 8, we have the same thing. So this is verse 6. When we get to verse 8, we're going to have the same thing, but this time it's just going to say Saraf.
Mhm.
And in my version, it's going to translate it again, fiery serpent. Yours might do a little bit different. It's just going to have the word Saraf all by itself. It's not going to have the Nahash there, but they're going to go ahead and translate it as fiery serpent in order to help us out a little bit there. And in verse 9, it uses just the word Nahash,
Mhm.
just the word snake there, or serpent, combining with a word that's very similar, Nahoshet. So it's this word again, Nahash, but instead of the im at the end, it's going to give us tav, Nahoshet. By changing this one little letter, I know you're not Hebrew, I get it, just give me a second, I promise, right? By changing this little letter, this becomes another word. It becomes the word bronze. So snake becomes the word bronze. So this author's playing with these words together, right? He's using those two, really 3 words, Nahash, Nahash, Nahashet, and Saraf in different ways to try and get you to see some different connections. So now we've got a little bit more information, but we don't know what these words mean. This word here, Saraf, in this particular case, it's in the transitive, so it's something like it means burning. Burning is probably our best word here. But in transitive, it's going to be like it burns, right? Like it's doing it to something. So it's a burning snake. It's not like on fire necessarily. It's it does the burning. So it could be burning itself in order to burn others, or it could be intentionally burning something else. So we got a lot of questions about what this burning snake is, what this fiery serpent is. Okay, is this a metaphor for venomous?
Mhm.
Obviously, if it bites them, their leg is going to be burning. Is that what's happening? Is it really just a simple, natural creature that bites people and causes them to swell up and be dead until morning? Little Bill Cosby. Are we allowed to quote Bill Cosby? Probably not. It's not allowed anymore. He was a great comedian. Sorry. Yeah. So the story is God's executing a lot of people for complaining, and then it's 9:12. Okay, and then allows them to be healed later in the story, as if this makes it all better now, makes everybody happy. And so we've got to start thinking, what about this God who kills people for complaining? Like, how do we deal with that? How do we reconcile that? And this is going to be our constant question throughout this whole study. Are we okay with a God who keeps sending something? We don't know what they are yet, right? So we're kind of doing 2 things at the same time in this story, in this study. We're first going to introduce you to all these supernatural creatures, but we also want to ask the question, like you're going to come away with a lot of just information about these creatures. But the question that we're going to constantly be asking is, are we okay with this? Are we okay that God listens to complaining people and then sends a horde of fiery serpents on them to kill them? Is that okay? And if you're a good evangelical, you're going to say, well, if God did it, it's okay. I mean, it's really that simple. Like, I'm done. I mean, he did it. It's fine. If he wants to kill entire worlds, if he wants to flood an entire universe, he can do that. He's God. That's fine. Okay. But here, at least in this study, we're going to say, that makes me uncomfortable. Okay, and it does make me uncomfortable. I got to be honest.
Well, you can't forget that, like, he pulled them out of slavery, gave them food and water, and saved them, and all those things first. Like,
Yep.
you know, it's not like he
And they
immediately
still gave him
killed
the
them.
finger. Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. So
Jace,
they
I have
deserved it.
another question that bugs me too.
Okay, good. Bring it.
The Israelites were going through some other were adjacent to some people that worship idols, and God did not like that.
Mm.
And he said,
That's right.
I am the only God that you worship me. Then he
Mhm.
ordered Moses to essentially make an idol for these people to look at, and when they look at it, they get healed.
Yep.
Yeah.
How does
Also,
that work?
Michael, in the reign of Josiah, they actually start using the same idol too often. They bring it up again later on in the Bible, and so they had to get rid of it. This snake on a stake. But who else becomes sin on our behalf? It is on a stick.
Ooh.
The Lord Jesus.
Yeah, this is a good sign. I have a sermon about this called "Snake on a Stake." Sorry about that.
Snake on a stick. Yeah. Yeah, that's very true. I mean, so Josh has just agreed with you in that this is very weird that we have this snake on a stick kind of thing. But it does show up later, and it becomes idol worship, Michael. So you're exactly right. They have to destroy it. We'll talk about that next week because that's all in here. And we can take it to the Jesus thing too. So go ahead and we can ask the questions now, and we'll try and work on them next week. But it's 9:15, so go ahead and ask them real quick. I saw some hands like going up, or just shout it
Say,
out.
like, another parallel between these two creatures is they both, like, they seem to inflict pain in a fiery kind of way, like with fire or coal.
Oh
or
yeah,
whatever.
the coal on the lips. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. So they're fiery in that sense, perhaps. That they purpose to cause pain, and maybe the first one's purifying pain. The second one is, well, death. But they do have similar things in that they're fiery. Good point. Kyle's got something? Yep.
Well, the funny thing is the in the first book we're reading, he for himself saying that he's unclean. He already acknowledged that.
Yeah.
The other ones are complaining. They've been complaining the entire time.
Right.
They had to see it and then they believe later, which is it didn't really change anything. And it does. I'm still weird about that. But there had to be. It came from God for some reason. The reason is why we don't know. But
Yep. Yeah. Yes. Again, remember, we're talking about literature, everyone, right? And literature and reality aren't necessarily the same thing. Literature is written in order to make you think a certain way or persuade you of something certain, not always to give you exact history on something. It could be historical, but also you've read lots of literature that's not historical. So we want to be thinking about that, even in the Bible, right? You know, like parables are cool literature stories that aren't historical. So like that exists. So we want to think through those things too. For right now, though, here's our only point because we're going to close this up. 9:15 is always our close time. We have met the seraphim. We've met them in this angelic form, and we've met them in this serpent venomous form. Okay, these are the same Hebrew words. We don't know what to do with all that information yet. Okay, so there's a lot more that we can look at here. Seraphs aren't done. Okay, and I want to take you especially to like Egyptian seraphs. And some of you might remember that, you know, like at the snake that comes up off the front of every basic Egyptian headdress that you can think of. If you think of an Egyptian person, you can think of that on the coffin of the uraeus, they call that. So we want to definitely
I don't
look at
have
that.
one.
You don't have one?
No.
No. Well, some people do. I don't have one either. But so yeah. So we'll talk about that. We'll talk about the Isaiah 14 snakes, the adders, the darting adders. And all of these as like weapons of God's rage. Like God comes at them with rage in almost all the seraph passages, except for this Isaiah one, this Isaiah 6 one. So it's very weird. So we're gonna have to make some conclusions of that, but we'll tackle the seraphim hopefully and finish them next week. But go ahead and, yeah, I mean, if you want to play in the Seraphim and come back. I'm going to say goodbye to a lot of you right now. And you guys also know that we might want to hang out for a few minutes after.
Here's a question. Isn't Sarah like a Hebrew name that means princess? And like, is this just like princesses hanging out around God, possibly?
That's not the same word, seraph and sarah. They're very different words.
Gotcha.
Yeah, but good try.
It's doing wordplay, like the biblical authors do.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah. Lori nailed that one. The Bible's always doing that kind of stuff.
He's trying to
That's how
gain
they can-
points
kinda
with
like rhyme.
Sarah. He's trying to
What,
gain.
Brian?
With
He's
his
trying
wife,
to gain
yeah.
points
Oh,
with
yes.
Sarah.
Daughter, yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Smart man. Yeah. Got to gain our points. All right. This is what we call the after party. It's not much of a party. It's just Bible nerds who want to say something that wasn't said before and they didn't